Hi, I'm Tia M. Grubb, and I'm the author of The Lesser Devil. Today I'm going to give 5 pieces of advice for wannabe writers or first-time writers. Of course, I've only written 1 book, so what the hell do I know? So the first thing I want to talk about is the biggest thing that I see people do. A lot of the wannabe writers that I talk to and hang out with, we all seem to have the same problem, and even I had the same problem in the beginning, and that's why I didn't write a book for years. We have too many ideas and we don't know which one to go after, and we tend to go after one idea, then go after another idea, and we put down that one and we go on to the next idea. And you're never going to get anything done like that. What you need to do is pick one idea and marry yourself to that idea and stick to it no matter what. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And if you don't do that, you're not going to write a book. I do think it's a good idea to keep a notebook next to you at all times in case you do have an idea for another book or whatever else you're working on. But when you write it down in your notebook, make it a quick outline, draft, a few of your favorite quotes, whatever you need to do, and then put that notebook to the side and get back to your main project. Don't let yourself get distracted. My second piece of advice is to create a habit or a ritual and a goal for the day. I find that the ritual helps you get into a headspace. It took me a long time to write my first book, but over that time I learned that the ritual is what helped me get into the headspace to be able to write. I have 4 songs that I listen to every time I begin to write. And I've used that same 4 songs every day that I worked. And soon, every time I hear these songs, I automatically click into that headspace. And that's usually the hardest part in the beginning, is getting into that headspace. So create a ritual. Have your certain drink. Have your certain pen, your certain notebook, whatever you need to create a Pavlovian response so your mind immediately gets into that writer's headspace. Be sure to set a schedule. I actually found that my best writing happened around 2 o'clock. And of course, I write more than that. But you set a schedule and you stick to it. I know a lot of people that have retail jobs, been there, done that, have a very chaotic schedule. But what you have to do is, if you can't schedule it according to time, schedule it according to your lunch breaks. On my lunch break, I'm going to write this much. You got to make that commitment to doing it. Every day, you have to at least open up the program, open up your notebook, and look at what you're working on. No matter what, you have to look at it at least once a day. And soon you'll get to the point where, I'll just add this sentence, or I'll edit this, or whatever. But you have to look at your work at least once a day. And what it boils down to is you just have to get off your ass and do it. A lot of times it just boils down to self-discipline. Either you want to be a writer or you don't. And I hate to be a hard ass about it, but you're just gonna have to do it. Quit bitching about it, quit making excuses about it, and buckle down. If you're serious about it, you'll find the time. If you can find time for WoW, if you can find time to knit, or if you can find time to watch your television show, you can find time to write. It's just, what is your priority? My third piece of advice is your state of mind. And I'm very guilty of this, and I'm going to have issues with this till my dying day. It's to get out of your own way. We have a lot of negative thoughts outside of ourselves, and we have a lot of negative thoughts within ourselves. And that little worm just eats away at our creativity. So I would definitely recommend being aware of negative thoughts, because the negative thoughts you have do tend to manifest themselves. So you have to have you have to be mindful. You know, you have to learn to be very mindful of your thinking, or it'll be a detriment to your creativity and your work discipline. Don't listen to the naysayers. Yes, every story has been told, and that's what I heard a lot of. You know, oh well, you know, vampires and werewolves and witches and all that has been told before. True, everything has been told before. Pick something you want to write about, and who gives a fuck what they say? And an example is, if I told everyone that watches this video to write about a tree, they're going to write a completely different story. One person's going to write from the tree's point of view, another's going to talk about the lovers at the bottom of the tree, and yet another's going to talk about the bumblebee or the hurricane heading towards the tree, you know? So it really is about, you know, your perspective on something common. And the commonality is not a bad thing. It gives something for your readers to connect to that they're comfortable with, and you bring them into that comfort place. They know the tree, they're comfortable with the idea of a tree, they know the basics of the tree. And then you slide in with your own personality and your own twist on the fairy tale. So don't let that bog you down. Trust in yourself to have a unique voice, because you do. My fourth piece of advice is writer's block. But I kind of have a different point of view on that. I find that about 80% of writer's block has nothing to do with the writing. It really has everything to do with what's going on with you, what's going on in your head. So a lot of times you're the one that's in the way. So if you can figure out why you're having writer's block, is it fear of failure? Is it fear that your story is not good enough? You know, any of these subconscious bullshit crap bogging you down, a lot of times that's what the writer's block is. And that's actually what took me the longest to figure out when I was writing my first book. Was it really wasn't the story that wasn't coming. I was getting in my own way with my own crap weighing me down. So definitely take a look at yourself and see if there's another reason why it's not coming. Now, for the other time where it's legitimate and you can't find that next step in your story, I definitely recommend a stream of consciousness writing. You take a character, or you take a setting or scene, whatever you see yourself getting blocked by, and just write. And don't think about it, don't edit it, just whatever pops in your head. You know, Varric wore a pink tutu with his purple socks, and he grabbed his fairy wings and headed out the door. And, you know, you just kind of go down, and you'll find a development subconsciously in your writing that will help you push through and figure out where you need to go next. I've never had that method fail me. It lets your mind wander and go and not worry about structure and not worry about the rules that you've put in your head. You just let it go and let it do its own thing, and you'll be very surprised what will develop out of that. You just have to give your mind absolute freedom of creativity. My number 5 in my worthless advice is about first draft versus final draft. I've been hearing this a lot from many of my friends, and they keep comparing themselves to other writers. You know, I'm writing this draft, it's flat, it's not filled out, it's not very descriptive. Of course not. It's your first draft. It's not going to be. You know, don't compare yourself to fucking Stephen King. You know, only Stephen King writes like that first draft wise. You have to develop your skills, especially with the first novel. You have to develop that. And your first draft is going to be ugly. That's just the way of it. It's going to be ugly, it's going to be raw, it's going to be bare bones. And then you go back and you fill it in and you edit some more, and oh my god, you edit some more. But don't compare your first draft to a final draft. That is just ridiculous. You know, give yourself a fair chance. Now, let me show you. So, the first draft of my book was barely anything at all. You know, and then the last draft of my book. I tend to write with layers. I add the bones, I add the ligaments and the meat and the muscle and the organs and the flesh, and then I have my book. So it's a process. First of all, you're learning, so it's going to be rough, ugly drafts anyway. But by the end of it, you're going to have something beautiful in your hands, because it's going to be editing. Trust me. Cannot compare first draft to a final draft. That's just being silly. Another example is, you know, with your first draft, and I like to just write my book without any of the bells and whistles and many descriptors, so I can just get it out of my head, because I find it easier to write that and then go back in and flesh it out, because I can add details from chapter 46 that I didn't even know what was going to happen then, and bring it back to chapter 3. You know, there's a lot of moving around, and when you're fleshing it out after you already have the bones laid out, it's a lot easier, and you can add a lot of Easter eggs. You know, and to me, that's the fun part. So just have faith in yourself and have faith in the process. And really put your will into it. If writing was easy, everyone would be doing it. I know everybody wants to be a writer, but writing's not easy. It is really hard to be disciplined. It's very hard to, you know, struggle with your own self-worth and your own ego and your own self-doubts, and then you have the outside world telling you the same thing. Stick to it. This is where you show your mettle, man. This is where you prove your mettle. You got to just stick to it and make it fucking happen. Make writing a priority and take yourself seriously and what you're doing seriously, and then other people will. And don't fucking apologize for it either. Really, it comes down to 5 things: discipline, focus, priorities, a positive attitude, and be realistic. Have realistic expectations on yourself. You're not Stephen King, but you could be. One last tidbit. Don't use tab or multiple spacings to indent a paragraph. Your formatter will love you for it, and especially if you're a self-published, oh my god, do not use tab or multiple spacings. Set it in your program as the default indentation for your paragraphs.
This is Tia Grubb, the author of The Lesser Devil, a book of the Keening Chronicles. It is a story of witches, demons, monsters, and men, each seduced by the darkness within and throughout. Deals made and blood shed, the world will never be the same. Not afraid of the dark? Check out my book on Amazon, available on Kindle and print on demand. Still curious? Find me on Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress at Tia M. Grubb, and on YouTube for The Lesser Devil book trailer, behind-the-scenes footage, and my vlog. May the night protect you as you protect the night.